What's up, everybody? Welcome to Down and Dirty with Michael Julian. I'm your host, Michael Julian, and on this show, we're getting raw, real, and leaving no stone unturned. Each week, I sit down with some truly remarkable people who have overcome immense challenges and adversity in their lives. Whether it was childhood trauma, discrimination, mental health struggles, or any other obstacle thrown their way, my guests aren't just survivors, they're warriors who took their pain and turned it into power. They'll share their unfiltered stories and the life lessons that helped shape them into the forces they are today. So get comfortable because we're about to get down and dirty. You'll hear firsthand how our darkest moments can unexpectedly light the path towards our greatest growth and success. Let's dive in and prepare to feel inspired. Jared Van Driessche.
How are you, bud?
I'm great, man. Thanks.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for doing this.
I'm happy for you to be here. I know a lot of people with a lot of stories, and yours is one that for the record books. And I think it's important that you have an opportunity because I know you're open with it. I know that's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
It's inspiring to me and other people just to have that mentality. But the fact that you're open about it, I think that's the whole point of the show is seeing people that have faced some real shit in their life and risen out of the ashes to become a rock star, which in my eyes, you are a rock star.
Well, that's very nice of you. I think I'm still maybe trying to rise or trying to figure it out. And it's a battle every day, but I put my best foot forward.
Yeah, you've done well. But I love your story and the fact that we're hoping soon it'll be a movie.
Yes, it's the plan. I tend to take big challenges on, and making a film is not an easy thing. So neither was getting into our profession either, but
that's true.
I want to do what I'm passionate about and what can help people. And so I'm going to give my fucking effort. I'll tell you that.
I know you will. That's how you roll.
Yeah.
So to talk about some perspective here and foundation is how we know each other. You and I know each other from the executive protection world.
Yes.
I'll ask you about how you got into it and Gavin DeBecker and all that stuff in a minute. But
sure.
For foundation, you and I have been friends for over 10 years, traveling in the same circles, working sometimes near or side by side or in conjunction with or whatever.
Yeah, we worked together. We worked on
up in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We can't name the client, but yes,
that's right.
We worked together.
That was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
We just walked around all day and gave everybody hell. But you and I we're friends in the executive protection industry. So I don't want this show to be about EP, although many of my guests have been and will be members of that community. So I'm not going to talk a lot about EP, except maybe something like the newsletter that you and Christian put out that just set the EP industry on fire because you were so honest about the shit that goes on in our industry.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. But other than that, so, we've known each other 10 plus years. And it wasn't until the last probably year that I actually knew your story. Now I liked you and you were my friend and I respected you. But when I found that out, that gave me some depth. I knew that there was a lot of layers to this guy, Jared. And I respect you even more now. So I kind of want the world, or at least the few people that might be watching and listening to this, to know your story. So just give me some background. Start from, you were born in Alaska.
Yes, I was born in Alaska. I grew up in a very small town. I grew up with a really fucked up family. Like we were the pariahs of that town for sure. So I'm very used to public embarrassment. It was not an easy childhood. Crazy abusive father. Come to find out, my father, who just passed this last year, kind of fucked me up after he died. Just processing things, but he was a pedophile, a rapist, a sociopath, a narcissist. I mean, probably one of the worst human beings you've ever met, if you ever met him. And yet he had this superficial charm and amazement where he could fuck with people in a way where people would admire him or think that he's amazing, and he was a fucking demon. So yeah, long story short, I wanted to get the hell out of that town as quickly and as fastly as I could. And as soon as I graduated high school, I was out of there. And I decided when I was 15 that I wanted to get in the executive protection field, which was a fucking joke to everybody. Cause like, what is this, trash kid from Alaska going to do? And no guidance counselors or teachers or anybody really could help me with this wild, dream that I had. But I've always been a kind of middle fingers at everybody guy, and I'm going to do what I need to do and just watch me. So,
and jump ahead 20 years, you're now running security for one of Elon Musk's companies. So that
correct.
worked out well.
Yes.
Nice way. Good for you, defying all the haters and people that thought you couldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's been a chip on my shoulder, to get into abuse. Like I can talk about it. It's emotional for me at times, because I'm a father now. I have two boys. And once I became a father, I kind of realized how fucked up my upbringing was, right? You really don't know what is fucked up or normal just based on what you have in your household.
That's all you know.
Yes. And so kind of things really came to light when I became a father, because I had to relive these different traumas and things that I had with my father. And he tortured us kids. He tortured me, and specifically my brother. And when I say torture, like it's legit torture. Like I wasn't potty trained till I was about 10 years old. He used to make me eat my own shit.
Yeah.
He'd beat the fuck out of me. Like legit torture.
Let's get into the foundation of your family. So you were living in a small town in Alaska.
Yes.
It was your brother and Bruno?
No. My brother, Andre.
Andre. Where'd I get Bruno?
I don't know, but I like it.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You had a sister as well.
Yes, I have two sisters. One grew up with me. One is much older, and then an older brother as well. That is much older than me, from different mother. But my who I grew up with was my father, my mother, and my brother and my sister. And we also, it's going to sound really fucked up because it is fucked up. My father was considered a soul healer, and he would take in troubled youth from all over the world. And we had a bunch of adopted brothers and sisters and everything that live with us. So I have a bunch of extended family that are as close to me as, blood brothers and sisters. So there was a lot of people in and out of our home growing up. And when I say a lot of people, I'm saying hundreds, by the time I was 18, 19 and got the hell out of there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I've read the screenplay, so I know the whole story. So it's going to be easy for me to
some of this story,
okay.
Because writing a screenplay, I had to make it, telling our story, we had to have like a beginning, a middle, and the end. If I put everything in there, it would be just torture porn and would be horrible for people. So there's a lot of shit that people don't know. There's a lot of stuff I haven't talked about, and a lot of stuff that isn't, in the screenplay about, our life, just because it didn't fit. So, and you have 2 hours to make a film, or, 120 pages, essentially.
You can only put so much in.
Yeah.
All right. Well, start with the ages of your siblings. You're just put it in perspective. So we got a foundation of what the family looks like. Talk about this cultish religion or whatever it was. Your dad.
Well, to me, all religions are cults, and certainly the one that I was raised in is a fucking cult. It's called the Baha'I faith, and it's like a Middle Eastern religion from Iran and from like the 17 or 1800s. But a lot of white hippies from like Michigan or some fucking part of middle America, Minnesota tend to want to be part of this religion, apparently.
Yeah.
So I'm the middle brother. Like I said, I have my mother and father. I have oldest brother with both sets of parents is my brother Andre, who worked with me on the screenplay. He's 4 years older, and then I have a sister who's 4 years younger than me, and then my older brothers and sisters, and all the other adopted kids that live with us.
Tell me, if you would, again, some of these stories about, like, I know about the kids that were in and out, the girls, and some of the things they said about your dad, but like, give us a frame the picture so we understand and can build the picture in our mind of what your dad, who was an evil son of a bitch, was like.
Yeah, well, he very charismatic. Like he used to wear a
narcissistic and sociopathic. Very typical.
he used to have like it's like I laugh about it now. It's all fucking disgusting and gross or whatever. But, he'd have like a big cowboy hat with a rattlesnake, head on there with American flag t-shirt that said, try to burn this one, asshole. Or he would wear a pair of sweatpants that were from Squirt, the soft drink. And he would point an arrow with a permanent marker to his dick on his pants.
Wow.
And he'd like walk around and be like that gregarious, wild European guy. And
Dutch, correct?
Belgian, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's kind of all the same.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he was wild. He, people were drawn to him. Like, we caught this shark this one time, and he was like, let's bring it into your class to have the, teacher dissect it. So we carried like 4 people, this big fucking 8-foot shark that he had caught, and we bring it in and, bring it to the science lab, and we're cutting it up and dissecting it. So people like loved him, but he had this dark, evil side that some people could see through and other people couldn't. And just depended on his magic. Could his magic work on you or not?
But it sounds like everything was self-serving. He was charismatic to get attention. He ran this faith to get power.
Oh, totally. I mean, everything was about him all the time. That's what it's like. I was seeing something. I think Mel Gibson put something out, and if you followed his career, he's had like crazy ups and downs in his career with his, beating his girlfriend and his alcohol abuse and
DUI and racist
and
comments and stuff.
But he said something that resonated with me, and he said, the thing that scares people the most in the whole world is essentially public humiliation, which essentially has been my whole life growing up in that town.
Yeah.
So like, I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
And I struggle with things because I don't understand what is normal and what is not normal, even being a 41-year-old man today. So I have to ask my wife, like, hey, honey, is this appropriate? Or then I kind of have a checks and balances with her because, I don't know, just because of my childhood.
The example set was not a normal example of what normality is.
Yeah. It's like, I'll give you one example was my sister had 9 puppies, like beagle puppies. And for whatever reason, it was too many puppies or whatever. So instead of giving them away, my father solicited my help in hanging them in our basement. So we just killed 9 different puppies, hung them and put them in black trash bags and then disposed of them and said, don't tell your sister. That was the kind of shit that I dealt with where, you have to turn your emotions off,
Are there times in your adult life where that comes up, where you see that as a trigger or it's affected you, your behavior, the way you say or do things with your own family? I mean, that would have just, I'm an animal person. I don't know how I would have recovered from that as a kid.
Yeah.
How's it affected you?
Well, it's hard because, again, I have a stomach or a tolerance for things that people don't. I don't mind conflict.
Yes, I know that about you.
Yeah, I don't mind conflict at all, whether it's physical, emotional, intellectual.
I think you take comfort. That's a comfort zone for you.
Probably in my shittier moments of when I am not regulated, I tend to be the person that can push the envelope or push the buttons or fuck with people in a way because I wanted them to experience something.
I think it also, and I'm only speaking because I get it. I'm very, very similar to you, and that's why we get along so well. Is there some kind of semblance of control that you have when you're in conflict? Because you can take it, and many people get very uncomfortable with confrontation and conflict.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've had to relook at my life. I mean, I almost lost my marriage to, my wife that I've known since we were 10 years old.
And I want to get into that.
Yeah.
So should we back up to the beginning a little bit?
Well,
I want to talk about Jasmine, and I want to talk about, everything chronologically, because I love that story about you and your wife.
Yeah.
I think, and you've agreed that this woman saved your sanity
Yeah. I mean, listen, I was being force fed my own shit at 10 years old, and I met her around that same time, and I was finally able to control my bowels, because it used to be, I was in such fear of my father. I'd do everything to not be in a weak place. So I would hold onto my shit, and then I just couldn't anymore. And it was horrible. And so it was like, it took me to 10 to kind of get that underway, 10 or 11. And now I protect people across the planet and travel and do all those things. So
Yeah.
if I can, be a success story, I think anybody could. I mean, I could have been a school shooter. I could have been in prison. I could have been in many different fucking avenues that I could have, taken, depending on how shit worked out for me. But I do credit my wife for saving my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't, that's a great story. I think that's one of the best parts of what your movie will be, is that ultimately it's kind of a love story. I mean, dude, how many people would have been able to understand you, or, I don't want to say put up with you, but deal with what you had to deal with? That's going to be hard on anybody's person with what you've had to deal with.
Yeah. And she didn't even know. She didn't know for a lot of years, because it's like I kept these family secrets, and, she knew something was off, but, I don't have secrets like that anymore. Like, I don't give a fuck. I will do anything and everything to be open and honest about what I dealt with, because I don't want anybody to deal with the shit that I've dealt with. Like, my mom should have divorced him. My mom should have left him. He should be in prison. He should have, rot in prison. I cut off contact with him, the last 5 years of his life, because if I would have saw him, I probably would have killed him. I probably would have done it myself.
What age do you think you were when the fear subsided and the anger took over, to where you didn't fear him anymore? You were able to let the kind of anger and stuff you'd been stuffing for so long come out.
Well, there was some instances in high school where there was a bunch of accusations about, sexual assaults and whatnot. Basically, all the female, kids that were living with us got pulled away by the Baha'I faith, the cult. But yet they didn't press any charges on him. They didn't, utilize, law enforcement or anything. And so I knew in my heart what was going on then, because it's like you couldn't deny it. But I also needed him. I was still, in school and living under the roof. It's like I almost allowed him to manipulate me, in the sense of thinking that all this shit was a lie, when I knew it wasn't a lie in here. And then more things came out as I got out of there and I left, and as I became a father, and, other adopted sisters getting in touch with me after the fact and telling me the story, firsthand about my father raping, her when she was like 12 or 13 years old, or the other girl that lived at her house that killed herself and also had those accusations. So it's like, I can't think that that's not, that wasn't a cause and effect deal with my father. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. That is horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jasmine, so 10 years old, you guys become friends.
Yeah. She moved. She was a transplant, because they don't grow attractive women in Alaska that way. So she had to move from California up there. And then she's, this little brown girl, the most amazing, kind-hearted, most beautiful person I'd ever, met in my entire life. Yeah. And she didn't come to Alaska knowing anything about our town or anything. So she treated me very respectfully. It was like, I was not the weirdo. I was just like this kid who was kind of charming and fun, and her friend, and,
a little wild,
a little
bad boyish.
Yeah. Yeah. It just is different. Like, she didn't have all these rumors and things that, or experiences with my family. She came in with like a new slate. I was, in school with kids where, I'm in second grade and I bring a rabbit's head to school for lunch, which is like a boiled rabbit's head, because my father got off on grossing people out. And we ate rabbit, we ate bear, and we ate all kinds of animals. And we had rabbit the night before. So I bring, everybody's got their fucking snack pack and their banana and their juice box. And I have a tinfoil thing of, rabbit head that I break open and I suck the brain out and I'm eating the tongue. And basically all the kids were like, move tables. And my teacher in the second grade made me sit at the other table because it was fucking horrendous for people.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that was different or
that was normal for
yeah.
you. So that's why your understanding of normal is a bit skewed.
Yes, exactly. And so she didn't have any of that history or whatever. And so she was super kind-hearted and, saved my life because she showed me compassion in a way that I'd never had from the opposite sex before. And took me 11 years to get out of the fucking friend zone, but I finally broke out of that shit.
Better late than never, bro.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right?
Exactly.
So that's good. Well, I love that story. And when the movie comes out, everyone, because as I said, I read the script, screenplay, whatever it's called. And I just love that story. So, okay. So then you are, 19 when you moved back to California?
Well, after I graduated high school and moved out, what are you asking me?
I'm leading up to starting at Gavin DeBecker.
Yeah. So, I went to a Executive Security International, ESI.
Yep.
They took me at 15 because I found a martial arts magazine. It was Black Belt magazine back when there were magazines, and I loved the martial arts and was reading this article about this bodyguard school. So I'm this fucking white trash kid in Alaska. Like, this would be fun. This is something I want to do. And I ended up contacting the school. I got some scholarships, some different things. I started working on some studies for that when I was 15, graduated at 19. I was their youngest graduate at that point. And then hit the ground running, doing every sort of security job I could. And then I heard about an interview that Gavin DeBecker and Associates was putting on, and I couldn't get an interview, but I found out where the interview was. And I flew to Los Angeles with a suit and tie and went in with a resume and said, here I am, and you should hire me. And ended up getting hired there at GDBA at the time. And I was the youngest hire that they had at that point. And I did 10 years with them. So,
and amassed essentially the most of your EP experience while you were there. Cause I mean, that was, well, I guess, God, I've known you a while, huh? I keep thinking you're younger, but you're 41 now.
Yeah.
Okay. So for 10 years, you worked for Gavin DeBecker.
Yeah.
Saw a lot of things.
Yes.
You want to give the audience a little bit of insight on the executive protection world?
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. It's different. I mean, coming from, like a small town in Alaska, like people are like, what is Alaska like? Or what is your small town like? And the kind of thing I always say is, if you've ever seen Napoleon Dynamite, it's kind of like that, where Uncle Rico is still drinking at the bar saying it was a class of 1983. And he's football. Like, hey, if coach would have put me in fourth quarter would have been state champs.
Yeah.
So it was very different for me going from that lifestyle to, essentially Learjets and limousines and traveling all over the world and experiencing things that I could never do in my own, with my own wallet at the time. And so I learned a tremendous amount of information and got to see the world, traveled to more than 80 countries. I've co-authored a best-selling book on Amazon. I've done a bunch of podcasts and blogs. I'm working on the screenplay and getting this movie made. So I've done 2 or 3 things thus far. So all my adult professional career has been in security and executive protection. I was bouncing at hip hop clubs in Seattle and bars before I got on with Gavin. So I've had the full spectrum of experience in the security realm. So yeah,
I would say so. And now you've got a different job in security because it's not all EP, it's all things security under you.
Yes.
And we can say the name Neuralink. Correct?
Yeah.
Neuralink.
Yeah. So I'm the director of security at Neuralink, which is the brain-computer interface company that Elon and some others have started to essentially help people, first off, quadriplegics be able to use a computer with their mind, thinking about typing, or and then hopefully down the road, maybe get blind people to see again, and hopefully make people walk again. So it's cutting edge technology, and it's super controversial in, the space, just with, our CEO and BCI in general. So it's been very exciting.
Why is it controversial?
It's controversial because anything that our CEO does is news, and anything with brains and computers and the melding of those two is some weird sci-fi stuff. So a lot of people tend to think that it's kind of evil Skynet that we're creating at, like a Terminator 2 reference, right?
So if suddenly tomorrow Neuralink had a breakthrough and could cure quadriplegics' inability to move their limbs, they'd still find something wrong with and them.
Of course, because that's just the nature of media today. And everything is clickbait, and there isn't really legacy media anymore that I think has ethics and standards and morals anymore. It's all just kind of
ratings
and
money.
And what can I say? What is the most controversial headline that I can put out in order to get clicks? And
yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, I think you guys are doing great things. I think, from what I know, what I've heard, and you've had some breakthroughs lately, doing clinical trials and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
it's been amazing, and it's been cool to be a part of it. And I certainly am the dumbest person at that company because I don't do any of the science. I just essentially say I'm the face punch guy, which is
knuckle draggers have a place in life too.
Yes.
Thank God.
Yes. Otherwise, what would I do?
Exactly. But you've amassed a lot of management experience too, which could be applied in other industries and disciplines, I think.
For sure.
But security. So let's go back for a second. And we talked a little bit about this. I love that. Well, you said it. I already knew it, but you said it. Tell me why you got into the world of protecting other people.
Well, I've thought a lot about it, and, writing the film, and it is a true story, wanted it to be, factual. I think what it breaks down for me is I wasn't protected how I should have been as a child. And so I've been searching for something to fill that void. And I think I get that dopamine hit where I help other people.
Yeah.
And I'm a little fucking crazy. Like, I don't fear things that other people fear. I have a very high tolerance for risk and stress. And so I essentially can use that as a superpower, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I don't know the clinical, psychological, or whatever physical parts, but I can see where what you've dealt with in your life, your childhood especially, I don't want to say fried or numbed, but it kind of desensitized certain receptors, I think, in your brain that most people would feel fear or risk or threat because of what you're dealt with. So your threshold is much, much higher.
Yeah. I've never talked about it publicly, but I've been diagnosed with PTSD from childhood trauma. I mean, I think it's probably an obvious thing. You're looking at me like, yeah, dude, I get it.
No, I know. Well, I guess now I think about it, duh. But no, my point is, how would someone not have PTSD from that? I can't imagine, unless you end up with multiple personality disorder because your brain's trying to protect you from your childhood. So it disassociates and creates new personalities, which is a thing. Otherwise, how do you not have PTSD?
Well, how I would look at that, or my answer to that, is a lot of people don't know because there's this stigma of mental health. Like, we're in this tough guy, alpha male bullshit industry, right? And so people aren't keen to talk about their weakness or what they are challenged with, or they won't even go to a therapist because they
are too macho. It's too in control. There's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah. So
how are they going to protect anyone if there's something wrong with them? I get it. I see it. I can't stand it.
I think it's a lot of it is, undiagnosed because people aren't even willing to have that conversation. So,
yeah. Well, that's why I love that you're here talking. You've done another podcast or more. I don't know. I know one specifically I watched a while back, and when I first started to get pieces of the puzzle, and then of course I read the screenplay. Mental health is not something that really we talk about in this industry too much, and it's not, except for when you or me or Christian or God, I don't know too many other guys in our world that talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
They should.
Yeah.
We should. I mean, it's bottom line is if you let it build up inside, it can blow you up from the inside out.
Yeah. And I struggle with all that stuff. Like, I think I mentioned on the other podcast, but I struggle with suicidal ideology, which is different than being suicidal. I am not suicidal in the sense of where I'm planning my suicide and I'm going to do it, or I'm trying to like build up the strength to do it. How it is for me is my death or the end
gives you a sense of relief.
Yeah. Comfort.
No,
I don't have to feel this pain
Yep.
anymore. I don't have to feel I don't have to suffer or anything. But I have a suicide pact with my brothers and sisters, actually.
Okay.
So if I kill myself or if they kill themselves, then we get to like mock them and make fun of them in death. So if I do end up killing myself, then my brothers and sisters are going to make fun of me. So I'm keen to not do that then, because then they'll have something over my head. That
is probably a really good deterrent.
Yes.
To not let your siblings make fun of you about something.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to avoid it.
Yeah. And also, I am trying to break the cycle of abuse for my family, right? My two little boys that I love dearly, and my wife, I obviously love, and you've met, and she says hi, by the way.
Tell her, Jasmine, I said hello. I adore her. She's a wonderful, wonderful woman and a saint.
Yes.
Frankly, I think we both would.
Especially if she's with me.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So you've just barely scratched the surface.
Yes.
I guess you're obviously leaving some meat for the movie, which is good because it's going to be intense. But something happened relatively recently that was kind of another brain blower upper for you. I don't think any of us were expecting it, but when it happened, I completely understood it. Your father passed.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, you hadn't spoken to him in some time, right?
Yeah, I hadn't spoke to him in probably 4 or 5 years. I chose to go back to Alaska to bury him. And I would say it was not a funeral, it was a burial. And some of my siblings were there, others chose not to go. And I just wanted to see him, one last time and put him in the ground and try and bury it. And I still have a bunch of feelings about that because he never, saw the court of law. He should have been getting ass raped in prison if it were up to
a lot of people.
But that didn't happen. And so I just have anger, and I'm a light switch. Like it can come on real quick. And I ended up scaring the shit out of my wife, my kids. I got into it at a pumpkin patch with a bunch of different people and got really loud, scared everybody. My father-in-law was there. My mother was there. It was not a good look. And my wife was like, I can't do this shit anymore. Like, you have to figure this out. And so I spent a lot of money, and I checked myself into a mental rehab facility in Arizona called the Meadows. So shout out to them. They have a program that they've been developing since the 80s that specifically deals with childhood trauma. So I was there for about 6-7 days, just trying to cleanse myself of all this shit and try and get a fresh start. And I didn't know if my wife would still want to stay with me or whatnot, because I can be scary. I was never violent with my kids. I never hit my wife or anything, but I was explosive and violent and punching holes in walls and being scary and challenging people and not backing down, and all those things that make me good at protecting people can also be a hindrance and a negative, right? It's a double-edged sword.
100%. What emotion would you say was the core, what's the word I'm looking for? Catalyst. What emotion were you feeling when you would lose control?
We just live in a society where people think that they can say whatever they want to anybody without repercussions. And I grew up in a place where if you say something that I don't like, then we're going to talk about it. And if we're not going to talk about it, we're going to talk about it with our hands. And so it's hard in today's society. It's like there's, I don't want to shit on the woke movement or whatever, but it's like, it's hard. And so often I take pride in telling people what I think, if I think they've overstepped. And so it's kind of like, it allows me, like, what emotion is it? It allows me to let the steam off a little bit. So I have targeted anger, which is not a good thing, right? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I completely understand. I get it. I've been there.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Thank you, though. Yeah, when I lost my parents for months, I was just, I had a rage inside me that would come out, especially if I drank. Like, it took all the inhibitions away. But I get the anger thing. So would you say, but what has emboldened you, or what drives you to push a little bit further?
I'd say everything is anger based for me.
Yeah. Me too. I get it.
Being 15 years old and I want to be a professional bodyguard. Like, what is that? And you can't do that. And that's not a career. And you're just a liar like your father. Because my father used to tell all kinds of wild stories about what he did. I don't know what's true, what isn't true. I don't know. I assume everything that he said is a lie. And so being, lumped in with my father was like the sins of the father affect the fucking son.
Yeah.
And I experienced that firsthand. And so it was like anything that I said I was going to do, I'm like, I have to do it now, because otherwise I'm going to be a liar, or I'm going to be a failure, or I'm going to be my father. And so that's hard. And I think the thing that I struggle with tremendously is lack of self-worth. Like I look at myself in the mirror and I see my father, and I hate my father.
Yeah.
And I'm genetically him. I come from the nutsack of a fucking pedophile rapist. And I'm sorry, Mike.
It's all right, buddy. I got these here for a reason.
So that's hard for me. Like, I'm the fucking son of a total piece of shit. And everybody says, all this forgiveness shit and, do all these things for yourself and it'll be okay and all of that. And I'm not there. And I don't know if I'll ever be there. So it's kind of like, I've never been an alcohol or a drug guy. But I think it's kind of like, one day at a time, one step at a time for me. So, I don't know.
Hi, everybody. As you know, I'm Michael Julian, and I am the creator and founder of the Alive Active Shooter Survival Training Method and Program. And Alive is today's sponsor for my podcast. So Alive is an acronym. It stands for Assess, Leave, Impede Violence, and Expose. It is Run, Hide, Fight 2.0, the new and improved method. We have certified over 290 instructors in 6 countries, and we're certifying new ones every month. If you are interested in becoming a certified instructor of the Alive Active Shooter Survival Training Method, please reach out. We'll give you all the information you need, and we have a class at the end of every month. We would love to have you in our 2-day course, and then have you out there teaching the world the best way to survive an active shooter. And as a sponsor of the show today, if you call and would like to either get the active shooter training or you want to become an instructor, mention my podcast, Down and Dirty with Michael Julian, and we'll give you a 10% discount on either way you want it. Thanks for staying tuned, and we'll see you soon. Well, I completely understand, and I can relate to the degree that I can, though I've not experienced what you have. But and you're right. You get tired of everybody saying this and that and giving you advice and forgive them and all that shit. I would struggle with that myself.
I don't believe in forgiveness, and I don't think my therapist believes in it either. I think it's this like bullshit term that people use. It's like, my father did some good in his life. He had good qualities. Everybody has good qualities, but he was also a pedophile and a rapist.
Yeah,
maybe even a murderer. I don't know.
Wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah. So to me, it's like I'm not going to be like, oh, well, he was really good with me that one time, or did this really great. No, there's certain things that you do. There's a fucking line that is crossed that you can't back up from that.
No, he wasn't a good man.
No.
So if he had a couple of good days, that doesn't make him a good man.
Yeah.
And I can understand how you can draw that line, because my personality, black and white, right and wrong. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person, and you're not going to cut any slack. But I will tell you, I have to stop you and tell you something that you said that gave me some emotion inside. Because I look at you differently than you look at you. I understand why you do that, but you have got to. I know that there's a rational side that understands that you're not your father.
Yeah.
The fact that you're still haunted by the association with, or that you see in the mirror your father, I can only say I wish to God, and I'd do anything if I could take that away from you, because I know you're such a good man and such a good father and such a good husband and a great friend. I mean, when you left the one company and you were in limbo for a bit, we had a lot of very intense conversations, and it got deep and emotional. And I know how much you appreciated that. And I was glad I could be there for you. But damn, dude, I wish you could cut that perspective, because you are so far not your father and have gone so far to be the opposite of your father.
Yeah.
That you're a great father and a great husband and a great friend.
Well, I'm working on the great father and husband thing. I think Jasmine would say I'm a great father and husband. I certainly haven't been in the past, and I can do better, and I need to do better. But yeah, I mean, it's not easy, Mike. I don't have the fucking answer for that.
I get it, buddy. I didn't have your childhood, but I certainly, a lot of the emotions and self-doubt and shit, you just can't shake it, because that little boy is still inside you that was molded and programmed that way. And those programs don't just go away.
Yeah.
You got to work, you got to get rid of them. And kudos for going to that rehab or development thing. That's fantastic that you actually were man enough to say, I've got a problem. I'm going to lose my family. I'm going to take care of it, because that's what a winner does. That's what a fighter does. They don't just stay with drugs or alcohol or their excuses or their victim mentality and say, well, I'm a victim, so you can't blame me. They take responsibility and they make a change.
Yeah. And it would be easy. It would be easy to keep my head in the sand. I think I've had other family members that do that with my father and want to, I wasn't there. I don't know what's true. Or like, I know what the fuck is true. I know what happened, not only to me, I know what happened to other people. And so I just can't do it. I cannot, I cannot stand by. It's like, I've had a lot of horrible things in my life, and I have to adjust perspective. It's like, I love your girlfriend, Heather. And if something bad happened to Heather and you're like, Jared, we need to do some things, it wouldn't be that hard for me to be talked into helping you dispose of somebody that hurt her. And for the record, I've never done any of that.
I'm sure you haven't.
But the point of it is...
But we appreciate that.
Yes. And that I could go there, and I actually think about it. I had somebody ask me recently, and I'm not going to share who, but somebody very dear to me, had somebody in their family get murdered, somebody that I knew very well. And was like, can you take care of this guy? And I had to sit there and think about it. And I was like, no, I can't, for my family, my kids, and my wife, because those are the most important people. But I did think about it.
And if they weren't in the picture, yes, the answer might have been different.
Yes.
And tell me, how do you, I get it. I'm with you 100%. But for anybody watching and listening, what is the driving force that allows you to justify that? Is it the anger towards bad people? So bad people should, it's okay if you put bad people away? Yeah. Okay. It's like, I hate injustice in any fucking kind. Yeah. I don't like bullies at all. I hate that shit. Have we all been bullies in our life at some point? Probably. But I just don't like that. And it's, for whatever reason,
bothers me to have injustice. And if I think that something is wrong or not right, I'll blow it up. Like I think I told you at lunch, like I'm the guy that I'll climb the tree or the ladder. And if for some reason I'm motivated to chop the tree from underneath me or kick the ladder out from underneath me, I'll do it because I think if I think it's right, I will. But then I end up crashing on my face and hurting my family or hurting myself. So.
Yeah, acting on emotion can sometimes get the best of you when suddenly you look back and go, oh, shit, I probably should have thought this through a little better. But I get what you're saying. And I think that at the end of the day, I think it's honorable. And it's also smart that you decided to think of your family first and not do it. But I get it. So your dad passed and you crashed. Like when I found out, I tried to reach out to you. You were just super secluded.
Yeah, I went dark for a little bit.
You went dark. Understand. What were you feeling?
I didn't get any of that relief shit that people say.
Resolution.
No resolution. Nope. I wanted him to pay for his crimes. That didn't happen. And so it was just, I thought I had everything under control, right? I'm the tough guy, or I can handle this or I can handle that. And it was just like flying off the handle. Fucking anger was just big time and at the forefront. And my wife is a very strong woman and is one of the only people that can be like, hey, dickhead.
And you'll listen to her.
Yeah. You need to look in the mirror. And I think any true life partner that's worth the salt is going to do that. She
100%.
Certainly did that for me.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, 100%.
So
that's great. Yeah, she's a good, strong woman with a good head on her shoulders. And again, I just love your guys' story. But they say behind every great man is a better woman or something. So
yeah, and she's way better and greater than me. So
so I'm glad you said what you said because I completely understand when you've got a grievance with somebody and you're hoping for resolution, and all of a sudden that person disappears, and you know that you'll never get that resolution. It's a very empty feeling.
Yeah.
It's empty and angry and lost. And what the fuck do I do now? And what am I supposed to do with all this energy type of situation?
Yeah. And Alaska is a love-hate relationship for me. So I've been taking my wife and kids up there every summer for the last, I think, 6 years on fishing trips because I'm trying to create better new memories there because the memories I do have growing up there are fucking
terrible,
horrible.
Yeah.
And I did go to his grave. I did actually piss on his grave this last time I was up there.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good.
That was kind of...
was there any sense of...
made me laugh.
Yeah.
Like I laughed while doing it.
A little bit of closure?
I don't know. I don't know if there'll ever be closure because I'm his DNA. I'm his fucked up DNA. And for whatever reason, that fucking bothers me.
Yeah.
But...
yeah, I get it. I understand. But you're not him.
Sure. But it's easy for you to say across the table, and I understand that. But for me, it's like fucking shit in my mouth that I know what shit tastes like because he used to make me eat it. So
yeah, I get it. I mean, and it is easy for me to say, but damn, I only know the story of your father, but I know you, so I can see such an obvious and massive difference and separation from those two people.
But you can also see the crazy sides. You've been out with me where people want to mouth off or people want to say things or I want to say things.
Bunch of college soccer players want to fight in the hotel lobby and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yes. No, actually learning your story put a lot of that in perspective. And I now saw the source of the anger and the source of the lack of fear and sometimes self-control and acting out and can relate to a large degree to some of that.
Yeah.
So I got it. But
I forgot about the soccer player thing. That was a good memory though.
Yeah. I think that was in Texas.
Yeah.
And then of course you almost had one of our little inner circles completely lose his mind in the back of the limo because you wouldn't stop giving him shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you find that button.
Yeah. Also, I don't really like that person.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. So I was laughing the whole time in the front seat. So yeah, I get that. That's crazy. So what's next for Jared Van Driessche?
I don't know. I'm going to continue to work in the security industry. That's all I know. It's all I've done for over 20 years. This film that I've written with my brother, it's called The Injured. I'm sure it's a working title. It might be changed at some point as we move down to production and whatnot. But it's essentially the story of brothers being pitted against each other and with our evil father and trying to cope and figure out our ways. And I had a wonderful girl, ended up being my wife, help and save me, as well as a mentor that grew up down the street from me that took me hunting and fishing and
that's right.
Taught me, all the things that I'd want to do
with a dad.
With a dad, he did with me. And I had that. My brother didn't have that. And so he has had a tremendously challenging, not only childhood, but adulthood as well. And so it's kind of looking at how trauma affects people and how brothers can come back into each other's lives and carry on and triumph over evil and confront the fucking demon that was our father and break the cycle, which I think is going to be a very powerful story if I can get the goddamn thing made, because, I'm not choosing, easy goals here. And people in Hollywood typically want, a sure thing or somebody that's written a movie before. I feel like I can't lose because I'm not writing some bullshit story that I think is going to resonate with people. I'm talking about my life and it's real. And so if you don't like my story, that's fine, but I know it will resonate with, people. So I need somebody with some big balls or big ass lady nuts. And I'm looking at the camera that is willing to, make this thing happen and help me move it forward.
Yeah.
So we're at the stage now where trying to get directors attached and trying to get, a director that can move the needle, so to speak. I've had many offers of people that I would love to direct this movie, but yet they aren't established in that world enough to get some, financing attached and studios and all of that. So I'm in this whole process of having to, pitch it to people one at a time and wait, 6-8 weeks for this person to read it and go, no, thanks. Or maybe yes. Who do you have attached? And waiting to see what, anybody else wants to do with it.
This will probably end up being a passion project for somebody that can relate and sees the value from an emotional perspective. And I can't help but say, because I just saw Iron Claw recently, man, there's a lot of similarities there. And that was made, and Zac Efron could play you.
Well, he's a lot buffer and more handsome than me.
That's true.
But hey,
but seriously, there's some. You're right. The story is it's gonna speak to some people.
So what do I want to do? That getting back to that, yes, I have the film, but like I want to help people with this film, and I think that I can do it courageously in a way where people that have been raped or abused or have had the trauma might not be able to speak for themselves, but I can speak for them. My brother can speak for them, and I think that. We can make it in a really compelling way. I'd say if I had to describe the movie we're trying to make, I'd say it's a cross between 3 different films. I'd say A River Runs Through It. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Brad Pitt.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say Precious, about the abused inner city woman. And I'd say it's also like Stand By Me, where the 3 boys are going to go look for the dead body.
So would there be like a narrator like in that movie?
Yes. We absolutely, I like narration in film. A lot of people don't like that, but I like that. And so we've written this film with narration in there.
Yeah.
So,
I think that would be appropriate. I like that as well, especially for something this, because there's one thing to see the actors portray, but then to have the voice telling you the background and what's going on in perspective and stuff. I think in a story like this, it'd be very, very beneficial.
And I want to partner with people that want to get this message out, whether that's rain.org or wannatalkaboutit.com or any of these organizations that are out there, because I think with today's landscape, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like people are looking for authentic, real, honest stories. Like they don't want this fucking bullshit. And I think Hollywood is kind of seeing that they're getting it wrong now. I mean, you look at box office numbers and everything, like shit isn't resonating in a way that Hollywood thinks it's going to resonate. So it's interesting to have people critique your art or critique my life. But I know everything within my fucking heart and soul, for the sake of a term I don't believe in, that I can get this shit done. It's just going to take me, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but I'm going to do it.
I believe in you, and I believe that'll probably happen. And I hope that this will help, actually.
Yeah.
Would it be nice if
that would be nice.
James Cameron saw this, and not that the James Cameron, movie guy, and said, hey, you know what? I could make that really well. It'll be a passion project for sure. But so let's get down just real to in the weeds. What is it? How is it going to make you feel? What are you doing this for? What is the feeling you're looking for, either self-serving or not, which most feelings we go for are self-serving. You want to put this movie out there to what? Get down to the grain.
Yeah, I want to talk about the uncomfortable things. I want to provide relief and support to those people that need relief and support. I want to talk about male rape. That's not something that is typically something that that is talked about. When I say male rape in this instance, I'm talking about my brother, who was raped at 10 years old by 2 different older girls. And that's in the film. And isn't something that is typically talked about. It's usually, a rape of a woman by a man, or some sort of prison rape scenario for men, but not, girls or women raping boys.
Yeah. And of course, the joke that everyone thinks of is the high school kid that ends up telling his friends that he had sex with his teacher, and everyone goes, well, what are you, stupid for telling anyone? Just keep doing it. But the truth of the matter is, because I was involved in an investigation regarding something like that, a young person's sexual mind is not developed and can't understand certain things, and stuff like that will fuck them up.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's only one of the kind of a sexual assault type, weird, leaky sexual energy stuff that my brother had to deal with in his circumstance of life. And again, that's like the dark secret that people don't talk about, because, I'm going to be judged, or what do people think? And again, you don't give a fuck anymore. You're not going to shame me.
Yeah.
You're not going to intimidate me.
Yeah.
You're not going to embarrass me.
You can't do anything to me that my dad hasn't already done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so that's what I'm trying to do. And, I'm working on it, and yet wanting to keep people safe. And I'm very passionate about that. I mean, I wouldn't be in protection for as long as I've been, over 20 years now. And I mean, that firsthand. Like, we go to these conferences and you see, people here 1 year, gone the next year, or 5 years. And it's still you, me, and some others that are sticking around doing it. And so I take pride in it. I don't know what else that there is for me. I just want to try and help people and spread the message. And I think I can do that with the film. I think I could do that with different public speaking things or podcasts and stuff like this. Like, I love your premise, how you open your show and what you talk about, what Down and Dirty with Mike Julian is. And I just think this is a perfect platform to kind of dive into this deeply and expose things and help people. And that's essentially all that we do in our line of work.
Yeah. And it feels good to know that maybe you're taking some stuff that you had to shoulder and was a lot of weight and maybe even broke you down a little bit, but you're still walking, to show other people that it's okay. You'll make it through. Don't lose hope. Don't fall into the victim mentality. Put your head down and do the work, and your life can be good and you can be happy. And even if you have to go to therapy, you get on psych meds, whatever it takes to get it right so that you can live a happy life. That's what you do. And thank you for acknowledging that. That's why I want to talk about stuff like this. I could talk about EP all day, but that's boring to me. I want to talk about shit like you've been through.
And I have a hard time with therapy sometimes, because I'm like, are they doing this shit to fuck with me? Like, is this a joke? Or are they going to go laugh with their significant other about this crazy fuck that they're dealing with that's crying and having these problems and things. And so the reason that is obviously because of the trust issues that I had with, my family and growing up in the cult and, all of those things. And so I'm trying to reprogram my brain in a healthy way, because sometimes when those parts, pop up, it's somebody else driving the boat. I don't want anybody else driving my fucking boat.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much you know about the technical side of it, but you can absolutely change the wiring. You can create new neural pathways. You can shut down old ones that lead to pain and hurt and sorrow and depression. And it can be done through therapy. It can be done through affirmation. It can be done through self-talk. It could be done through psych meds, and all that stuff helps.
Yeah.
But it absolutely can be done, and you're doing it. And that's why I have this thing. That's why the show exists. I want people to see strong people, and see what made them strong, so they can feel like, oh shit, okay, what's happening to me is happening for me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what would you tell people? What would you tell young people in a horrific situation? How could you give anyone advice? A young person that they're in a situation, and nowadays, our society's lets young people think that if somebody looks at you wrong, they should go to a safe space and cry.
Yeah.
But what would you tell somebody that you knew was in a crisis situation like yours or similar?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, if you were to talk to the 10-year-old me or the 15-year-old me, or I probably would not have been able to recognize that I needed to, not be in my family should have been broken up because it wasn't safe. I don't think I could have recognized that, because I wanted my family to be whole and to be together. But I would say, tell somebody trusted. Know that you're not the only person going through this horrific shit. Other people are, and you will gain strength by being open. And you got to know who to go to, whether that's another parent, a friend, somebody at school, a counselor, somebody trusted, because there are duty of care. If you were a school administrator or mental health or therapist or something, and a kid reports something
by law in many states,
yes,
you got to do something. Now you knew deep down what was going on. Was you were believing the stories and the whispers. You knew what was happening was wrong, but you were dealing with one, that's your father. You're supposed to love and trust and respect and admire and do what he says.
Yeah.
Two, you were scared to death of him because he was a prick and flew off the handle and did terrible things to you and your siblings. What do you say to a young person that's dealing with all of those same emotions? Like, would you say trust your gut, or listen to your gut? And if there's some big red flags, take them seriously and maybe ask somebody if this is normal, because you said that was your norm.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. That's a hard question to answer, because it was the norm that I lived. And, spending, tens of thousands of dollars on mental health therapy, I could tell you one of the things that I learned from my therapist, who's a fucking amazing, amazing person.
Male or female?
Female, actually.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah. She was telling me, she's, been in practice for 20, 25 years. And she's saying, the most tragic thing for kids is not the sexual abuse, isn't the physical abuse, isn't the torture. It is the abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
Because humans, unlike other animal babies, need their parents, and need their parents for a long time.
Yep.
And so if the little girl's getting raped by her father, or a little boy is getting, forced to eat his own shit, or whatever it is that I had happen to me, in that little child's brain, the scariest thing is losing his parents and not having his family. They'll tolerate the shit eating, the abuse, the torture, all of those things. So I would say, being a 41-year-old man now, looking back, that fear I wouldn't have that fear now because of my life experience. But talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, be brave enough to do it. And that's hard because it'll break up families. It'll destroy people. I mean, it's destroyed my family in many ways where, again, people in my family want to bury their head in the sand and pretend that things didn't happen, or I don't know what was true. Well, it's easy to say that, but I'm telling you what happened to me. And if you want to say, well, you didn't experience that and you're not taking what I'm telling you, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. There's only so much you can do until you're beating your head against the wall. And then you just say, well, that's fine. You don't have to believe me. It doesn't matter because it happened. And I know what it happened. And now I'm dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the movie, where does someone contact you if they want to help get it made, give money towards it? They knew a producer or a director, whatever.
Yeah. I'd say hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Just my name, Jared Van Driessche on LinkedIn.
Very interesting spelling, by the way.
Yes.
We're going to spell it because let me see if I remember. Driessche.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
You can also email me at Jared Van D. That's JaredVand at outlook.com. Or you can follow me on my IMDb page. I have a page talking about the film and what I'm trying to do. And I would love to connect with anybody. One of my things that I remember going back to EP now is when I first got into this industry, I used to ask people that were in the industry, hey, can I take you out to coffee or lunch? I'd love to pick your brain about this industry. And I had a lot of people close doors in my face and not welcome me in that way. And I told myself, if I ever made it, I would always make time for anybody that reaches out to me. So if you're going through struggles that are similar, let me know. Hit me up on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message or an email. I'll talk to you about it. Talk to you about the film. If you can help with the film, great. If not, if you just need help, let me know. I'm there too. And that's the kind of shit that drives me forward.
So, I love that. When the movie gets made, who's going to play you?
You know what? I haven't even seriously considered who that would be because when you make a film, and I've been on plenty of film sets and movies and stuff like that, it's a collaborative effort. I just want to make sure that my story, my brother's story, doesn't get bastardized in some like Hollywood bullshit way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay on as a producer to help get it made. So it's not like something that I'm trying to like sell and give away. It's like, no, I'd like to get this made in the vision and that we have conceived for this and use it as a catalyst to help people because I think film is a powerful medium.
It's the one that most people learn and intake and digest information from, whether it's real or not. I mean, we watch fictional movies to escape our lives and live someone else's life.
Well, I do that because I can't read, but
well, you've done a good job with the screenplay for someone who can't read.
Yeah.
Speaking of younger people, what would you, and this is great, and I hope any aspiring or new EP person will listen very carefully because you're going to say it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell a not young, I've worked with Secret Service agents that were agents for 30 years and then got in the private sector. And this was all new to them because now they're running a business. But what would you tell a young person that thinks, based on what they've seen in television and movies, how glorious and glamorous being an EP agent is, if they're thinking, I want to have a career in executive protection?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? What would you ask? What would you tell?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different paths that one could take to get into this line of work. The path that I took was a fucking hard one because I had no military, I had no law enforcement, had no like real college education outside of my, executive protection trade school that I went to start. And so I think the reason I was able to do that is because I had some fucked up life experiences, even with the stories that and some that you don't know. It's like I had something tangible or experience that I could leverage. And if you're a young person, you haven't seen the world or haven't done anything, have no education, that that therein lies the challenge. So you have to have something to offer people. You have to have interests and passions, and that could be a number of different things. Like if you're into horseback riding, or and you're passionate about that, that could be somehow a hidden door into breaking into the industry. When I broke into the industry, I was super young, and everybody told me, you're too young. You look like a fucking kid. You have no life experience. And I was like, how do I take that narrative and how do I flip it on its fucking head and
make it work for you?
Make it work for me. And how I did that was, okay, I am not old. I am young, but I can work with children of prominent families. I can blend in. I could go to the basketball game with them. I could take them out skateboarding and not look like a creep. I could look like an older brother or a cousin or an uncle. And that kind of helped me open the door to get tremendous experience that I wouldn't have been able to get. And if I would just sit there and say, yeah, I don't have this and I don't have that, then I wouldn't have been able to get the job and work. And the other thing I said about, like somebody learning something, if they're passionate about, horseback riding or skiing or whatever, there's been plenty of details that I've got on because I knew how to ride horses or I knew how to swim. So when the client has their private yacht renting an island out in the Caribbean and they want, protectors that can swim, I'm somebody that can swim really well or ski really well. And all those kind of life skills and hobbies, I think, translate well into our field. And I think too often people are like, oh, you got to be, lift weights, you got to be strong, and you got to know how to shoot, you got to be capable and all those things. But I think that a lot of it is personality based. And I think a lot of it is the gift of gab. And I don't know if anybody can glean this from our conversation, but I'm pretty good at talking shit. I'm pretty good at talking. And I think that is something that is super helpful in our industry. Being able to communicate with anybody and treat anybody respectfully, no matter, if it's an housekeeper or a fucking head of state that's coming to meet your principal.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding how to communicate, I think, is super important. And also knowing when to push boundaries, because I've not always played it safe. I've played it unsafe and, lost jobs and pissed people off. And I've also not played it safe. And that was my saving grace, so to speak. So
I understand that. I can see how people that can be a strength when you use it properly.
Yeah.
So can we pin the message down to being gain as many hard and soft skills as you can to make yourself more attractive to a wider, more diverse clientele? Because the more you know, the more places you can fit in, the more stuff you can do with the principal, the higher your stock goes up because now you're, multi-talented and can do more stuff.
Yes, I would say that that's definitely true. I would say figuring out what you want to do, because what we do is different than what other people do. What I do is very different than what the Secret Service does. And I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody that does government service, but it's difficult to get into the Secret Service or the FBI or any of those government agencies. But what makes it easy when you're in that is you can flash any sort of Secret Service badge or whatever and tend to get what it is that you want, because it holds a certain high standard. We're like, oh my God, this guy's in the Secret Service. What do you need? But the art of executive protection in the private side, where you don't have that badge and you have to go get something and make it happen and have the store stay open or close early or make people jump through crazy hoops to get shit done. There's an art to that is very difficult for people to learn if they haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
And I'd say if you could work at like the Four Seasons as a concierge, it could be such amazing training for anybody in the executive protection field, because you're going to know how to read people and what they need and what they want. And all of it is an anticipation thing. If I'm protecting Mike, and I know what his day's like, and I know that he gets coffee at Pete's every morning, then I'll have the coffee on the next day for him ready in the back seat when we drive him to the office. So he doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, I get that. And a lot of that stuff is learned. I mean, from my own experience with a father like mine, whenever he was working on something and I was his, helper, I better be 2 steps ahead of him. That's very helpful when you're dealing with a principal. So you've got their stuff ready for them. But a lot of that is also learned. Now, you said something about you didn't have the benefit or something about being military or law enforcement. Instead, you were a blank canvas with a little bit of dirt on it from your childhood that learned the art and skill of executive protection. That's pretty valuable. You didn't have any programs like in law enforcement and military. You have to have a certain mindset and certain skill sets, and some apply to EP and some don't. But that mindset doesn't always, because we're in a service industry. Okay, we're protecting 1% of the time, and 99% of the time we're smiling and taking care of their personal needs like coffee and dry cleaning or whatever they need so that they can enjoy and be who they're best at, right? That doesn't always translate or transfer over from military or law enforcement. So I would say it was a little bit better in that regard because you didn't have any old programs to get rid of.
Sure. But if I had to look at myself critically, if I'm applying for a job and, Joe Smith over here is military or law enforcement, college degree, everything on paper, and they look at my resume and his resume, typically speaking, like whatever algorithm that the HR company has, like I won't even make it to the desk of, top 30 applicants for the job. My success has always been, hey, I know this guy, Jared, he's kind of great or kind of okay. And then I get my foot in the door. I sit and meet with people, and then I typically can make it to the, to the final stages of getting the job or almost getting the job. And if I had to go back in time, I probably would have went to the military and got, 4 years, got my college paid for, and it would have been a lot easier, I think. But again, hindsight's 2020, and I don't know. My story is my story, right? It's different for everybody.
Do you think you'd be any further along had you? I mean, look where you are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, because the law enforcement or military guys, I love all those guys. One of the things they struggle with is, reconditioning to normalcy outside of the military. Like
it's tough.
Yes, sir. No, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And then they're protecting, XYZ billionaire with a wife and kids, and they make the wife and kids feel like they're at a military facility or a prison. That's not going to make them feel comfortable or confident.
No.
And so understanding the audience is tough, but, and especially for our military and law enforcement folks, which I care very deeply for.
Absolutely. Definitely respect and love, appreciate everything they do 100%. Now you told me a funny story. I want you to tell us again when you, somehow just happened to be back home with one of the most famous, richest, most powerful people on earth. Tell us that again. Cause that's
growing up with the father that I had, he was like a total liar about everything. So he was born in 1937 in Belgium, and, he had these wild stories of him being in a concentration camp, which I don't know is true or not. He was born in 1937, so he would have been pretty young in a concentration camp. He was either he says he was in it, but I don't know if he was a Nazi sympathizer. He could have been a fucking Nazi sympathizer for all I know. So anyways, these very wild stories. He would come into classrooms and he would, bring in megalodon teeth or this lemon shark. And he was like, yeah, this is the shark that bit me in the arm, and here's my scar, and this is how I killed it. And all the kids are like, wow, this is amazing. And then, it would be wild story after wild fucking story. And so I got lumped into you're just like your father. You're a fucking liar, and you don't protect people. And it was really cool for me to go to my hometown, pretty far into my career, where I'm standing next to one of the richest, most famous people on earth and seeing all the shitty bullies and kids and
Naysayers,
unsupportive teachers. Like, oh, well, maybe this kid isn't lying about his career and what he's doing. And it felt good for a fucking ego trip to have that, because it allowed me to distance myself from my father and be like, no, I said what I was going to do. And I said what I was going to do when I was fucking 15, and I did it.
In other words, you were saying to everyone and yourself, see, I'm not my father.
Yeah. I was saying eat a dick, but that's just the language that I use.
In Jared language, you were saying eat a dick, but your heart was saying, see, I'm not my father.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool. Oh, by the way, I want to give you this fun little gift, Blenders Eyewear.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, some sunglasses
from I appreciate that greatly.
Sponsor. And if anyone else wants to give gifts to give away to my guests as a sponsor, we'll take them.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Anything else you want to say or tell us about before we go?
I just want to, reiterate to anybody that's going through abuse, you're not alone. There are organizations that can help. There are people that care and want to help. Don't give up on yourself. I just had a guy, I learned on Sunday on Father's Day that a guy I worked with for 2 years just took his life. And I know I struggle with that, but I lost an adoptive brother to suicide at another brother's wedding, which was a crazy ordeal. But you kill yourself. That is a final resolution to a problem that I just don't think needs that final resolution. So everybody's hurting out there, and I just call somebody, man. I mean, if you need help, seek it, because the world is a better place when we have those people still alive. And I just lost somebody. We just lost somebody that was an amazing human. So you're not alone. Don't do it. Seek help. And if anybody needs me specifically, you can message me or call me and just say, hey man, I need 8 minutes. And that can be the code for me to know that you need some help, and I'll be there for you day or night. So don't let that dark shit take you over. That'll be my final message.
Well said. And if I can just add to that, even if you don't believe it at the time, it can always be better if you just do a little work. If you just put the booze or the drugs away, or you get out of the bad relationship or distance yourself from the things that are bringing you down, it can always be better. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
So never lose hope. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being here. We didn't even scratch the surface of our fun times, but that's okay. We did what I wanted to do, and that was let the world know what you'd been through, how you dealt with it, and how you rose to where you are in spite of it. And frankly, spite is a big reason you are as successful, because you were going to not allow anyone to think that you were the same man as your father.
Yeah.
And that's a very powerful driving force. And you've used it for good. And maybe now you can put that down and cut yourself some slack, because you're not your father. That is for damn sure.
Well, it's my hope. I'm working on it. But
that's all you can
I
do.
appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much. And thanks for doing this podcast. I think it's going to really help some folks.
I hope so. I definitely hope so. All right, brother. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Until next time, please connect with me on your favorite social media platform, where you can follow me on my personal journey, including the fun stuff I do with people close to me to celebrate our lives and our victories.